Thank you all for joining us today. We are Type Electives. We're an online design school shaping the future of typography. We're co-founded by Lin Yun and myself, and we offer classes that go beyond traditional type design education. We'd like to say that our classes explore type design, lettering, creative technology, and we work with people who bring respect, responsibility, criticality, and love to their practice. And we love working with students who share our values. Today, we are kicking off our fall lecture series, where we always invite new and established voices to share their stories, knowledge, and ideas with the community. And this season, we're exploring the importance of language support, diacritic design, and language revitalization in the context of typeface design. In this series, you will hear from these amazing people across different languages and scripts. So whether you're a type designer, an academic, or just curious about how language and typography are connecting, we hope that these talks will give you insights into the balance between function, form, and the cultural identity that is shaping typeface design. Here's what's ahead. We have words of type today. Next week, the week after next, we'll talk about the Cherokee syllabary with Chris Killern, then type design for African languages with Chiza, language identity and typography in the Philippines with Joe Malinis and Jat Maza, and we're wrapping up with North American indigenous languages with Leo Vicente. So each session will include a short presentation, a conversation with us, and an open Q&A. So by all means, please send us your questions. We'll make sure to see it in the Q&A section or in the chat, and we'll keep track of them and try to answer as many as we can. And as always, our goal is to share insights, spark dialogues, and make resources available to a global community. And just so you remember, all our talks are recorded and they will be available on our website right after. So if you have to leave early or you can't catch it, you can check out the recording later, send it to your friends. And yeah, everything is on our events page on our website. So check them out from previous seasons. We encourage it. With that, I pass the mic along to Lynn, who has a really awesome announcement to make.
Yeah, we're really, really excited to share a brand new in-person class with David, co-founder of Noble Signs of the New York Sign Museum. It's located in New York City, in the East New York area, which is on the C train line in Brooklyn. So it's, if you are local to New York and you want to, get a closer look at the museum's archive of signage, type catalogs, and, advertising ephemera from the 20th century, it'll be really cool. It's a really cool opportunity. And I personally, being in New York, I think it's really interesting to see New York's unique design style as far as signage goes, because for being such a large city with lots of, history by American standards, like I feel like there hasn't been a lot of archival effort for signage in New York. So it's going to be a really great opportunity. And in this class, like you'll take inspiration from vernacular lettering to sketch, letter, and then you'll be digitizing your own design into vectors. And it could be like a vector lettering piece or a very small set typeface. So something that's very, as we keep saying, it's really important to us to make the classes really accessible. And so we're also offering a pay what you can option. So we really encourage you to apply, even if you think that you can't like afford the full tuition. Like it's really important to us. You can apply. And also we would really, really encourage anyone from the East New York area, which is where this the sign shop and the New York Sign Museum is located. So if you're local to East New York or know friends who are, they don't have to be a lettering, master of any sort. Like definitely encourage them to apply if you want like local people to come. So
Yeah,
that's
it's
a
a
little
beginning
announcement.
level class, so enjoy it, folks. Thank you, Lynn.
Yeah. Yes, and before we dive in, here are some simple ways to support our mission. You can donate to our scholarship fund. You can subscribe to our newsletter for updates on class and events. Of course, you can follow us on social media and YouTube. And of course, if you could please spread the word about our classes, events, and mission, that would be amazing because every bit of support helps programs like this keep running. So thank you all for being here. Yes. Um, and with that out of the way, let's get started with today's event. We're so excited and honored to have Lisa here. Thank you so much. Just a little bit about Lisa before we dive into her presentation. Lisa is a French and Chinese typeface designer specializing in Latin and Chinese Hanzi scripts. Based in Nantes, France, not to be confused with Nancy France. And she studied graphic design in Paris and later pursued type design at Type Cooper Condensed and type media at KBK. And growing up with Chinese and French cultures in Paris, she has always been interested in how design connects cultures and people. And you might know her from Words of Type. In 2023, she founded Words of Type to do exactly that in the realm of typography. And just this year, Words of Type was honored as a TDC 70 Award winner. Congratulations again, that's amazing. And please join us in welcoming Lisa to the virtual stage to chat about Words of Type, cultivating multilingual typographic diversity, which I know is a lot of words, but we'll dive in. And just as a quick reminder, there's a Q&A at the end. If you have any questions throughout, feel free to use the Q&A function or put it in the chat and we can like keep that in mind. Yes, and we'll occasionally try to, put some relevant links or, reminders for Q&A in the chat. So if you have the chat open, that's good too. All right, Lisa, please take it away from us.
Yeah. Thank you, Lynn. So let me share my screen now. Yeah. Do you see my screen? Yeah, okay, great. Well, thank you, Lynn and Juan, for the invitation. There is kind of a common goal between type electives and Words of Type, so it is an honor to be part of this year's lecture. So I will talk about Words of Type, a project that is based on a multilingual encyclopedia for typography, but not only. It's a project that I founded 3 years ago that I initiated and I am working on my own, but not only as well. And I'll tell you about the project's story, how it began and how it's going, its values and its vision. So yeah, first a few words about me. Lynn, you said most of it, so I will be very, very quick. You can see like all my path of typography education here, as she mentioned. And this short story of mine tells you how many different languages and cultures I grew up with. It's like basically mostly French and Chinese, but even within Chinese culture, within China, you have many, many smaller local cultures, just like anywhere, and French, and then now English. And anyone using more than one language knows the struggle sometimes of jumping from one to another, especially with languages and the cultures that are tied to them, especially with languages that are different in so many ways. It makes you feel sometimes like that you have like a split personality. So now, yeah, enough about me and about Words of Type. What is its story? It began with needs that I had and issues that I've encountered back then when I was a student in typography and type design. Even with many great teachers at that time, I needed to find as many resources as possible on the topic to learn on the side. But when your main language is French, you quickly see that the resources in French are a bit limited, and most of them are translated from English or other languages. There are much more resources in English, and I try to go through them whenever I got to find any of them, which is not so easy to find from France or affordable, especially with a student's bank account. And unlike in the Netherlands, for example, English is not very well taught in schools. So while I was studying typography from those books in English, I was also practicing English at the same time, which is two things that you have to learn at the same time, not easy. Many terms are different from English to French or too similar, and they can lead you to confusion. These words are now translated rather correctly in common translation tools between French and English. I still like give that precision. But typography is such a particular field that using sometimes words from common vocabulary, they may have a completely different meaning in the context of typography. And yeah, if you don't know the context, or if your translation tool doesn't know the context, things can go sideways pretty easily. And this mix between lack of quantity and quality of resources and lack of quality, sorry, of translation is even way worse when you are mentioning anything with Chinese. So I'm sure that it is very similar also in many other languages. And then since I started to work as a graphic designer and type designer as a freelance or in companies, I needed to explain things to clients or to colleagues who don't know much or anything about type design so that everyone can be on the same page, understand the limits or the possibilities of type design, and all that without turning the conversation into a lecture or sounding crazy like that. Then also from workshops and lectures about Chinese typography to non-Chinese audience, I got to explain a lot of things, and about Latin typography to a Chinese audience. All of that made me realize how tricky things can be to explain and teach what I want to teach in a way that makes sense to the people I'm talking to. So yeah, and for each audience, the interest may not be the same, the way of learning may not be the same, and the approach regarding typography may be completely different. So one needs to adapt to each audience, and that is something that we don't learn in schools. So yeah, so these were the issues that I've encountered for which I tried to figure out a solution. And that is why Words of Type was born, the reason why it was born. And now I will walk you through the how it was born. And I've been searching and waiting for something like that that would help with all these issues for a while. And since nothing was really quite as I wanted or dreamed of, I just started to make a more thorough research on my own and started the project in my mind. And I did actual research with websites, but also articles, books, magazines, discussions with peers, and so on and so on. Yeah, I had time. It was right during COVID. So yeah, that was the only thing that I could do mostly. And so yeah, for the research, the resources online are mostly in English about Latin typography and with a quite specific words list. In most cases, they are very narrowed down to hardcore type design terms. And most books are about typography also in English for the most part. And in the books, they have a glossary where terms used in the books are explained. Some of them are explained too simply, kind of like in the dictionary, like super concise, super short. And the reader might need to have a basic knowledge before reading these. And yeah, for some books, the most famous ones, they are translated into multiple languages, which was very interesting for me. And I looked for as many as I could get my hands on between editions in French, English, and Chinese to analyze how the translations were made. There is one rare one, the printer's term that you can see on the bottom. It has many terms explained in many languages, but as far as I know it, it's the only one, and it's pretty old, as you can see from the picture. And then remember when I mentioned about books in Chinese typography being scarce? Well, those on the topic translated in English, for example, are even more rare, if not just inexistent. And some from those books, there were also quite often some wordings that confused me more than anything else. For example, with these terms in English, often translated the same in Chinese. And any type designer or typographer knows how different these all are. And then it was time for me to take action and get to work. So I started to collect words and list down as many of them as possible. Whenever I encountered something that at some point I knew I would have to explain it because it's not as straightforward as I would think, then I write it down, and then I've been collecting them for quite some time already. Since I was a student, I've kept writing them so I could remember them and also write how they are translated into books whenever I could find it. Some of them are part of the common type vocabulary, but yeah, as I said, they have a completely different and specific meaning in the context of typography. In some glossaries, they are not as complete as I would like it to be. So I would also like write down some words that I not to be found everywhere. And yeah, also words that would be useful by being available in more languages than just English or French. And yeah, that list quickly grew at now more than 500 of them. So I had to make a selection if I wanted to keep things somewhat reasonable. So I selected 200 of them, which is already quite a lot, but it was enough to show the diversity. I wanted to have something that shows the diversity of categories that all those words can cover, and also to show how diverse they can be. And yeah, I'm adding more words even today, every day almost to that list. It's yeah, our vocabulary is just crazy. That is why sometimes when you meet two type designers talking together, non-type designers can just they're just confused super easily. Yeah. Then I began to write down their descriptions in English and French because I'm most fluent in these two languages. And that's also the two languages where the resources are the most easy to find and to verify. So I wrote descriptions in a way that would be easy to understand for anyone with full sentences, not dictionary-like informations. And descriptions that are easy to understand for even non-designers with basic information, context, etc. And with information that are split into chapters because each person may have more interest into one aspect only, so that it can be handy. And then I thought of a set of languages as well, not just English, French, and Chinese, but more. So I started with 7 of them in total, English, French, German, and Spanish, which are the main languages spoken in Europe. And then also Chinese, Japanese, and Korean, the CJK. I know Chinese myself, but I thought that Japanese and Korean are so related to Chinese that it can be good to have them, and all together they form a good place to start to show how different scripts have different words. Yeah, and then I was very lucky to know all these great people, and they were all eager to help me out, at least for the very beginning, for free. And then I had to figure out a way to pay them, but that's another story. And then, yeah, this part of the project, content-wise, is probably the most challenging one, and I'll talk more about this later. Then typography is a visual world with an L, sorry. So all these words that I've described and explained would be even more easy to understand and make the project more appealing with illustrations. So I designed as many as possible myself, the more technical terms that are quite straightforward in their meaning. And then I commissioned more illustrations from illustrators, several of them, to bring more diverse styles. And then it was also time to design the thing at the end. And making a website was an obvious idea, as it would be possible for everyone, everywhere, to access the content. So I reached out to a graphic designer and a web developer to work closely together and find a result that would be functional for the users and for the content manager, me, and also bring forward a visual identity that would fit to the project without overstepping on the content too much. And then with all that work from that many people, work that I've been investing in with my own finances, a lot of it, I had to make sure to protect it all. So that's a boring part, not the most exciting one for a designer, but it was still a very important one. Yeah. And that is how Words of Type was born. And it was launched, the website was officially launched in January this year. Yay! And now what I want Words of Type to do with what I value most and the vision that I have for it. That's my next points. And these all, everything that I will say next may sound a bit candid or even over optimistic, but this is how I am myself because I believe in the typography community. It's a great one. And that and I believe also that there are many, many great things left to do to make that community even greater. So first, I want to share typography knowledge in a more accessible way. Knowledge that is easy to find, texts that are easy to understand, lectures and workshops at a more affordable prices, sometimes even free for students when I got to have Foundry's support. And also, whenever I can, to offer also free events entirely. Then also, I'm really focused on equal quantity and quality of resources in typography for more languages. Whenever you check a description on the good old Wikipedia, you may find some words that are like even just not really understanding the content just by looking at the amount. They are really different from one language to another. Some words don't even exist in some other languages. So that is something that I wanted to not to we have to fix in a way. And then I also want to have a typography world that is more open to other fields beyond typography and graphic design. That is my ultimate dream, maybe. So where my parents themselves could understand what is it that I do. Yeah, so that's a big dream. Anyway, and then I also want to bring forward a more international and diverse typographic culture. Latin type design is important because it's the main, Latin script is the main script used in most parts of the world, but there is so much more. And if you just think about food, for example, how boring and sad would it be if we had food from only one type of cuisine and that's all? Now, then, the vision that I have for Words of Type, again, like super candid and super optimistic. But anyway, yeah, that's what keeps me moving forward. I want to bring together a community of people interested in typography beyond English and beyond Latin script. That is one thing. And then make also more people realize the diversity there is in typography culture. I always like to do this analogy with food. When you get another approach from like other I have the word in French, but other tastes, other flavors, then your mind just blows. Yeah. And then also I want Words of Type to bring up meaningful cultural exchanges and dialogues that are beneficial to everyone. One thing that I don't like is when someone has lots of preconceived ideas about the culture without ever asking if it is true or not, and without ever thinking that behind the culture or behind a visual thing, behind a language and a script, there are actual people. So respect for people is a very important thing to me as well. As a Chinese person who grew up in France, that was something that I got to experience all the time, and yeah, I'm just sick of it. Yeah, all these they all sound nice, right? But none of these come without challenges. But I find that easy things are often too boring, So the challenges. I've mentioned before that thing about translations. And one thing here is that we do translations with non-professional translators, but typographers, type designers, teachers in typography, people who are often who have experience at explaining things and explaining things in more languages than one, including English. And translations is never just a one-to-one modification. It's also about cultural adaptation. So it made more sense to collaborate with people who have experience in typography and languages, because explaining those typography terms which are so specific to professional translators would not only that would take me much more time to explain all those terms for them to understand, and then so they can do their work. So yeah, working in collaboration with people somewhat like me made more sense. Then also another challenge is to translate words that are not existing in some languages. Questions would be, should we create a new one? Or how do we decide of which one to choose if there are multiple of them that are used or existing? And with who do we discuss about that question? Yeah, these are always questions that are open, and I don't want to have like the last word on everything. It's rather the opposite. Whenever someone has a different opinion or sends me an email saying, hey, this word is not so much used, but there is another one that more people use, I think it would be interesting to have as the main translation. And then when there are multiple options, I always add the other options in the description. Sometimes there are historical words, sometimes there are, like the different options. They're still good to have, they're still good to keep for anyone who wants to research about them. But it's always a work in progress thing. And the system or the process is never just set in stone. I like things to always evolve and adapt and change whenever it make more sense. Just like a living organism, it evolves. And then for many words, there are parts that are not so straightforward in some languages, and they need additional explanation for the context. So how do we figure out this part? Like which part would be not so easy to understand? How do we explain it? These are also things that we all work on with the translators. It's never just like the English texts are used as the reference for all translators because it's the one language that we use in common, all of us. But then whenever there is something that needs to be explained additionally, I always encourage the translators to do so, even if it doesn't have anything to do with English. And yeah, now today Words of Type is a project combining several things. An encyclopedia, which you can check it out. The first version is out, and there are more updates coming real soon. There are always going to be updates. I think it's going to be a project that will go on for many years, hopefully, if things go well. I know it's a crazy thing, but that's the charm of it. I love it because it's never boring. And then I've mentioned the events. There are events that are organized throughout each year, which you can find out on the events platform. There are lectures and workshops on various topics related to typography. More are coming up. And I also organize once every 3 months the Words of Type conversations, which are completely free. The last one was about academic research in typography with these amazing people. It's the moment when I try to pretend to be a journalist on television. I'm super bad at it, but yeah, kind of like the conversations. I make them casual, so that helps. And then there is also a community that I've created, so members can support the project with their membership, and at the same time discuss about the encyclopedia's content, among other things. This is where I get the opinions mostly from people about the encyclopedia. And finally, Words of Type also has a newsletter which you can subscribe to with monthly news about the project, because not everyone is on every social media. And yeah, there are news about Words of Type and news about the upcoming events before everyone else. And yeah, this is pretty much everything for now. I hope that it was enough to catch your curiosity if you haven't heard about the project before. Here are where you can find Words of Type. I'm on most social media, as you see. Feel free to reach out. It's always me behind all of these. If you did know about Words of Type already, well, I hope that I replied to some questions that you had about it. If not, then I guess that now could be the time for Q&A. I don't know if I'm okay on time or
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you
doing
so much.
great.
Yeah, so yeah, folks, reminder again that you can ask questions in the Q&A function of Zoom, or you can pop it in the chat. I know it's sometimes hard to navigate in like the Zoom interface. Yeah. Um, so I guess like I have a question for you, Lisa, actually.
yeah, yeah.
Like, um, I know you already spoke about like your challenges in like the little nuances of like be translating. Um I don't know how to say it. Like it's sometimes it feels more like an art than a science.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you have disagreements between the translators, like what have you done? Is it like to consolidate and reach a consensus? Is it to just make the description like longer so you can accommodate multiple views? Like I assume there's like a sweet spot between being clear and then like accommodating for multiple views. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was wondering about
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm not a writer. I've never, I was so bad at writing, what's that called? Thesis at school in French. It was a horrible thing for me. But I guess that when you like something and you have experience about it and know very, very well what something is, you train yourself at explaining it to others. Um, and in here, the descriptions, I work them out in a way that would be rather easy. Like there's no style of writing. It's not poetry at all. um, but it's more complex, like more complete sentences than in dictionaries, as I said. So in that way, I find that quite easy to grasp the meaning of it from English and then adapt it into another language. While I was writing the text at first on my own between English and French, I always also jumped from one to another to see how like what they could react with one another. And I find that English is much easier than French. It's like straightforward, like this is that, period. And that helps. And for any other languages, like in Chinese, that are even more straightforward than English, yeah, you just have one thing, you explain it. There's no you don't put in your own feeling on it or any personal thoughts on it. It's just descriptions. So this is quite helpful. But I always kept it kind of casual, uh, with casual but concise, like a nice teacher.
Yeah, I mean, like I can totally relate, and thank you so much for explaining like the nuances where in different languages, like the even the tone of voice feels different, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I can only read Korean and English, but sometimes I'll reread the same book,
yeah,
and then like and then like sometimes I'm almost like shocked at like reading like a Murakami book or something in like the Korean translation because the vocabulary can be similar. I can
yeah.
see there's a lot of nuance between like, oh, there was so much thinking before, this character did this. And in English, it's just like, this guy just did it. And I'm like, that's a totally different chapter. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I like Harry Potter books a lot, the stories before all the opinions of the author came out. But I've read Harry Potter first in French, then I wanted to read it in English, and lately, last year, I've read it in Chinese. And it felt like all three were three different stories entirely, especially the one in Chinese. I mean, what the heck? I
I
don't know
do a
if
similar
it.
thing.
Yeah.
But I do the same with like typography books, like elements of typographic style, both in
Ah,
English
yeah.
and Spanish, but also
Mm,
with like material I'm reading for like research. For some reason, sometimes the material is translated into English and Spanish.
yeah.
So yeah, I see how the different writings sort of like influence the kind of takeaways from the writing. Um, well, so going back though, I think there's a lot of questions. We have
Yeah,
20
yeah.
minutes left, so I think the two questions in the chat are kind of questions that I had myself. So I'm just gonna let's just move forward to the Q&A. So folks, if you have questions, please put them in the chat or in the Q&A. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can. The first one that I also had in mind is like this person is asking about, if you plan to add more languages, what are the challenges of adding new language?
Mm.
A little bit, your work is really inspired. So yeah, what's in the roadmap for you for like new languages and what's the process like?
Yeah, well, first, the next update that I want to add into the encyclopedia website is a roadmap page so that everyone sees how much work I have to do. But in that roadmap, there are definitely languages that I want to add. There are two more languages that are in progress, Italian and Dutch. I think that adding these two are rather easy before even like really getting my hands in it, because there are a lot of history books or references in these two languages. And then, whenever I add a language, it's a lot of work, as that person said. It's hard to tell how much exactly time is needed for each language because each language is different. Each time there are specific research that are needed to do. Obviously there is much more time needed for a language that is typographically underserved. Uh, but for German or Spanish, I would say it goes from anything between 3 months to 6 months, if not more. It's always a work in progress, and whenever the translator finds that some text needs some fixing, then I always update that thing. Um, and even now, I guess that if you check out the current version of the encyclopedia in Chinese or Korean or Japanese, you would see that some words are not translated yet, or that some words could be translated better. I'm always telling people it's always a work in progress, so please be forgiving. I know that there are many things that are that should be made better. But yeah, that's my main goal, as I said, equal quality and quantity of knowledge across yeah, quality and quantity in typography knowledge. Um,
Yeah, that's really
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
I know it's a lot of work. So I'm just curious about like if folks want to get their languages there, like they want to support, like what's the best way to do that?
Well, there are many ways depending on how much you can help. So it goes from supporting with a membership. It's a yearly subscription, 25 euros per year, but you can add more if you can. And then if you're Type Foundry, you can support also the project by sponsoring a word. With the word, there's a word list that are specifically reserved for that. If you want to show your typeface in the encyclopedia, it's a win-win situation in a way. Like you've got your product advertised in the encyclopedia and you sponsor the project at the same time. And then for companies, it can go even beyond, like sponsor a full event so that it can become free for students or people in need. So yeah, also sponsor a language entirely. That's if like you have so much money.
Yeah, that's another question is about funding, if you want to talk a little bit about that, but I feel like you
Yeah,
just shared a little bit about it just now.
yeah. Yeah, so
So
these three are they form the system that I have so far to keep the money coming in, so I can fund the project, like fund the website, pay for the illustration, pay for the translators, the maintenance of the website, all that thing, and pay for my time as well on the project. Um, yeah, it is a lot of money. So far, it's been sort of paying out, but I'm still also always keep investing a lot of money on my own on it. I know that these things take time. It's like opening a restaurant. My parents, they had a restaurant, so when they open it, they have invested so much money that I think it took them at least 3 to 4 years to uh, receive the benefits of it. So I sort of have this length of time in my mind. If it goes beyond, then I would think, yeah, maybe I'm not so much of a business person and need some help. Well, so far it's been okay. Yeah, I don't have the red light alarm on yet.
um, so encouraging folks to like share this, how useful this is with your friends, colleagues, and obviously if you're using it as a teacher, share this awesome resource.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
think
we
this
have a
is all
comment
made
from
for people who, like anyone, people, designers, students, teachers who want to explain things or teachers who are lazy maybe to explain all those words to their students. Just check out Words of Type or yeah, anyone, even people in companies who like are curious about Chinese type design terms and go check out those terms in Words of Type.
yeah, it looks like Dan's volunteering to help with translating to Portuguese too in the chat.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's always like super uh, heartwarming to like know that there are many people who are eager to help. So yeah, Dan, if you want to write me an email, please do. And there are a few other people as well, but I think that we need multiple people for each language. As I showed before, there are always at least two minimum, like one who translates and one who proofreads the text. So yeah, drop me an email.
Yeah, the next question is maybe touching on going back a little bit to, like translating in this sometimes parts of this project feeling a little bit more art than science. Um,
Mm.
well, here's a comment from Giovanni. First of all, being multilingual is incredible. I'm only bilingual myself, but I've always felt that Spanish carries so much more emotion that doesn't quite translate into English. My question is, what is something typography can express that spoken language cannot?
Ah, well, that's a tricky question. Um, I guess that would even depend on which language you're talking in. Yeah, I think typography has such a close ties to a culture. Typography in French is different than typography in Italian or in Spanish or in German. It's really, really hard. So the question again, what is something typography can express that
Yeah.
spoken
What is
language
something?
cannot?
Yes.
Yeah, in each culture, there are shapes that are connecting to a specific moment in history, a trend, a kind of feeling, an impression. And I think that when spoken language is just sounds, of course, in sounds, you can also have tones, you can have voice also, like a super high voice. It would sound like bring different feelings than a super low voice. If it's slow or fast, there are many different feelings that sound can convey. But I guess that typography, like because it's shapes, it's visual things, and it can be also combined with color, combined with movement. They can. It's a different world. I think it would be hard to compare which one is more powerful, which one would convey more feelings. It's so different. I wouldn't uh, step into the comparison of the two.
Yeah, one way I think about this question too is when, like, let's say I'm walking in the streets of New York City and different neighborhoods have a different way of using letter forms and typography. Or when I go back to New Jersey, this Peruvian neighborhood, I can see, different signage. Or when I go back to Lima, I see it just feels like home. So I think the
Yeah,
typography, even though it's not would say anything with sound, the letter forms themselves are telling me, you belong here. Like I feel like I'm part of it. So that's my take on it. But yeah, I
yeah,
agree with you. I mean, the language in which we use is super important.
mhm.
There's a
Yeah.
But I feel
question.
like Chinatown in New York feels different than Chinatown in Paris.
Yes.
Even if they're using the same characters, often the same names, like translations of the Great Wall or Jade Tower or something like that, it's always like there's something different each time.
Yeah, I always like have this thing with like other Korean American friends. Like sometimes we'll step into like just because Korean restaurants are so trendy these days. Like sometimes we'll and one thing as a Korean person, we always like to go check out new Korean restaurants. Regardless, it's like a whole thing. But like we'll always like walk in and be like, oh, like something about this menu feels like it was designed by a Korean person, but like, but it's like not, you can't really describe it. Like it's not
Yeah,
really like the typeface choice. It's not really the shape of the logo, but there's something there. I know what you're talking about, but it's very nuanced. Yeah.
yeah. I know that English speakers would say je ne sais quoi. In French, no one says that, but
Wait, I had no idea French speakers actually don't say that.
Thanks for
yeah,
the
we
tip.
don't say that.
My American
How to
brain
spot a
totally was like,
tourist.
oh. Well, we also have a really great question from Yasmin. Have you ever
Yeah.
considered turning the entire encyclopedia into a book?
Yeah, that's I love books, but that would be another huge challenge to figure out. It's on my mind. It's also in my heart, but yeah, I always like there are so many things that I have to think about, but yeah, a book would definitely another dream for Words of Type. Uh, Maybe it would be one language per edition, or yeah, maybe something in not a form of a book, but something printed. Yeah, I have got some ideas, and yeah, but it's not going to be for next year. That's the first thing that I can say.
There is an interesting question that just came up on the Q&A.
Ah.
So the question is, some languages have a closer tie between how text looks and how it sounds. How does the relationship affect type design? Does it create different constraints for designers?
Let me read that question again. Yeah, and how it sounds. Huh. That's another tricky question.
Yeah. If you want to expand by any means, if you have an example or something, you can let us know so we can
Yes,
we
please.
understand the question.
Because in Chinese, for example, yeah, if, for example, in Chinese poems, there are, well, it's hard to say because I don't read that many Chinese poems at all. Yeah, I guess that constraints wise for designers, that there would be things, questions that are like, is it a text that wants to convey something more poetic, or wants to highlight any visual aspect related to the text? I think that every script and every language must have, I don't know everything, but that's only a theory. They might have different approaches to, or more, not approach, but different relationship with their letter forms or characters or glyphs. And from there, each script or each language would have a different preference for how their text look like, depending on what the text means, what it is about, what is the idea behind it. So yeah, for designer, either typographer or graphic designer or type designer, I think that's a question that we always need to keep in mind. What is the message? What's the what needs to be transmitted to the audience, and to adapt that this the best way as possible with all the visual tools that we have, and to make it relevant to the audience. What is relevant for you or for the client may not be the same for the audience. Always making sure of this is also kind of a designer's responsibility.
Yeah. It's also an open-ended question. I tend to approach things practically. So for me, one example could be, let's say we think about Vietnamese type, they use a lot of diacritical marks. Like that is a very big restriction. If you design your typeface with a very tall X height and very minimal space between the cap height and the X height, you're gonna run into trouble. So I mean, there are very practical constraints in that sense. But yeah, anything with diacritics, I think, which is, anything that is not English, mostly, uh, you have to think about, the audience and how it's going to be typeset and how you're going to design it so it's accessible for everyone. Hopefully that helps answer the question. I don't know. What do you think, Lynn?
I think in English it's harder to sort of visualize. I mean, partially, I think living in a very American environment, it feels like a lot of different styles are thrown at me in English all the time, bazillion ways. But I think if I think about this in the context of Korean, Korean is the Hangul script, and effectively it is most of the time used for just Korean. And like the script is designed to mimic the shape of the mouth. So like it looks like a circle, like that is pronounced like oh, like which is like the shape of the mouth. And like, there's different characters that are um shape to mimic the tongue when you're pronouncing it. That being said, I think in principle, although if that was like the idea, in principle, people are like going to change things if they think it looks more cool for their project, and that's like very acceptable. So I think like there's a wide range. I think a lot of it is cultural as well. I think like with each language and each script, like there is like a huge amount of like context that comes with like the people that use those. And I think like, if you are part of, if the culture is such where like they want certain text to look more restrictive, more conservative, I think they'll lean that way. And so in many ways, I feel like it just like type design only really shows visually what the culture wants their voice to look like on paper. Yeah, so I mean, I feel like this is like a really high overview, but I think like type design really is reflecting what the people want to sound like visually. I
Yeah.
maybe too much of a poetic answer, but that was
No, I find it a really nice a nice description.
It's a big
Yeah.
question. Yeah. Three similar but different takes. There you go. Hopefully we helped answer the question. Thank you so much for it. Um, and yeah, I think we are almost out of time. Is there any last question? If not, we'll just wrap up.
yeah. Is there anything you want to plug, Lisa?
Well, I
Obviously,
think
besides words of type, go and subscribe, check out the website, go follow
yeah, well,
Lisa on
always
Instagram, all the
everything
different
is here.
things. There's QR code right there.
Yes,
Yeah.
please. Yeah, and I need all the help as possible. And please know that all the money is always going towards the project. I work on the side so that I can get money on my own. But yeah, everything I get from those membership, sponsorship, and partnership with companies, it all goes to Words of Type because that's like a huge baby and always needing my care. A kind of baby. But yeah, it's a project that really how I would put this in English. It's really dear to me. So yeah. I don't know if in the chat there are questions or not. From Grant, he says in this information age, visible language is much more powerful than linguists, for example, admit. That is why a culture having its own script is so crucial for its vitality. Yeah, definitely. Uh, yeah, I think, well, I think I've talked a lot already.
I think we covered all the questions people asked. So with that, we just want to say thank you so much, Lisa, for sharing
Yeah.
your time with us,
Well,
for
thank you.
sharing
Yeah.
your project, and hopefully we help give it more visibility and more people also help to support you and grow the community, because I think that's one of the amazing things about this project. It's not just you, it's you with a large group of people all passionate and interested about language and sharing and creating something that will be helpful for everyone. Um,
Yeah.
not
Just
just
like with type electives, there are so many things that needs to be done and that would be beneficial to everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
Icaro says success to you and Words of Type, and I would say also success to type electives.
thank you. I also wanted to give a little shout out to like the website. Like it's a beautiful website, and I think it's such a great example of how multilingual typesetting can be done, so beautifully. Yeah, so I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, well, there's no Arabic yet where everything would be. So yeah, I don't even want to think about it for now. But
This is why we all should go donate so we can add
yeah.
that to give Lisa the time. She needs
become a
to figure
member.
this out.
Follow,
Yeah.
follow, follow Words of Type on Instagram and support Lisa's
Yeah.
work.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
everyone, for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
all. Take care, everyone.
Take
Yeah,
care.
bye.
Thank you.